Starts with talent, doesn't it? I mean, it's got to be the first step. And SuperBoss leaders find unusual talent. And what that means in practice is that they're always on the lookout for talent. They're talent spotters. They're talent coaches. They're completely unafraid of great talent. They're actually quite self-confident because you know how many people say you should be hiring people smarter than you are. We all know that, but not everybody does it. Well, these SuperBoss leaders are actually not. They're not very insecure. They understand that if they're driven to succeed, which they are, having the best team is going to help them get there. And so they're talent scouts, and by that I mean everywhere they go, wherever they go, they're looking for people. You know how entrepreneurs are always thinking about ideas for business. They have like a sixth sense or an antenna. Well, for SuperBosses, that sixth sense or that antenna is an entrepreneurial thing, but in this case, it's about people. It's not necessarily or only about business ideas, it's about people. They're always on the lookout. So I'll give you one quick anecdote or story about this that I uncovered from my research. Ralph Lauren, he's in a restaurant in New York City with his family for dinner. And at a table next to him, there's a group of women, 3 women, one of whom is dressed in a really kind of cool, noticeable way. Certainly noticeable to Ralph Lauren. I don't know that I would have noticed, but he did. And, you know, this happens, not unusual. He strikes up a conversation with her on and off over dinner, you know, a little chat here, a little chat there. And again, not that unusual. And this is going on for a couple of hours. And then, you know, Ralph and his family get up to leave. Dinner's over. But before they leave, he walks directly over to her. And by the way, he never told her who he was, and she didn't recognize who he was. And so she gives him, rather he gives her, Ralph gives this woman, his business card. And she looks down at it, and it says, you know, Ralph Lauren, CEO. Ralph Lauren. She looks at him, she looks down, she looks up, and she's starting to freak out. I just spent 2 hours talking to Ralph Lauren. Unbelievable. And then he says to her, if you have a chance, could you come by the office tomorrow? I want to offer you a job. Now, it's breaking the rules. Can you hire everybody like that? I'm going to say you can. I'm not going to say that this is going to replace standard and appropriate HR policies on how to hire. But I will say that if you only leave the hiring function to HR, if you outsource the single most important asset you're ever going to bring into your team, which is, of course, the people, then you're abdicating your own personal responsibility as a leader. It should be in your mix. And if you teach your team how to be a talent scout, how to be a talent spotter, it might not be that you may come across someone once every 2 years. It might be that your team is thinking that way, and occasionally, periodically, you could begin to hire different people, unusual people found in unusual ways. When I tell this story to audiences when it's face to face, I ask people, is anyone? I mean, is this crazy? Has anyone ever done this? Inevitably, there are 1 or 2 hands that go up out of every group of 50 that have done this. So some of you probably are nodding your head and saying, yeah, I've done it. And now I'm happy to see that somebody's actually talking about it as a technique, because it is.
Okay, so let's take that conviction 1 step forward. How do you institutionalize SuperBoss style approaches, habits, behavior in an organization?
So there are a bunch of things, and I've been doing some of this as well. Step 1 is, well, let's do an audit of where we're at. Let's see what kind of company we have. Do we have SuperBosses? Do we even know we have SuperBosses? So I've developed and validated, now used an assessment tool that helps answer that question. And most of the time I've discovered that it's not like you have a SuperBoss or you don't have a SuperBoss. People are at various levels on different elements of the playbook. And so what you can do with this assessment is you can say, for every aspect of what I talked about, the playbook, you could see where each person stands, and then you could develop an entire learning methodology with both online and in person, and workshops and tools to help people raise their game. So that's a bottom-up approach. There's also a top-down approach, and I think both are needed. And that is the head of the team, the head of a division, ideally the CEO, uh, um, needs to be a champion for this idea. And because everything is teachable, everything really is learnable, you can put in place, after you've done the assessment, some diagnostic work, you can put in place a whole series of learning tools. I briefly mentioned some of the application exercises. I've created now used all over the place, over 40 of them, that are in a sense become a curriculum to help you get there. And then I think we all also know that nothing really gets done unless you're measuring it. So you have to keep tracking. What's the dashboard? Let's keep tracking. Are we actually getting better? And let's look at specific outcomes as well. It's not just do you score higher on the assessment as a super boss leader? That's important. But are you retaining talent more and longer? Are you becoming, as a manager or as a leader, a talent magnet where people are seeking you out? Uh, is your team actually more successful in whatever business metrics you have? All those things can happen. So institutionalizing any type of change takes a lot of work, no matter what it is. This is not an overnight check the box thing. It takes some effort, but some of the things I just mentioned will get you there.